we're going to be using the square root method. Okay, the square root method. Now, first of all, could I change it from this form into this form? The answer is absolutely yes, but there's a huge margin for error. First of all, you'd have to square this, which would give you 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. You'd have to go to multiply that by 3. You'd have to subtract 7. You'd have to bring the 29 over here, and you would do all that work just to change it from this into this, and then you'd have to use the quadratic formula in order to solve it. Well, there's got to be a much easier way, and there is, and I'm going to go back to when we solved when we solved linear absolute value equations and absolute value inequalities. What we wanted to do is, there we wanted to isolate the absolute value. Here we want to isolate the term which is being squared. So I want to isolate this term right here. So in order to do that, step number 1, we're going to add 7 to both sides. I've got 3 times 2x plus 3. The quantity squared is going to be equal to 36. Okay, so I was able to get the 7 over here. Now I need to get rid of the 3. To get rid of the 3, we're going to divide 3 to both sides. And I've got 2x plus 3. The quantity squared is equal to 12. So step number 1, I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, and that was I wanted to get this isolated. Now the reason this is called the square root method is just for that. We are now going to take the square root of both sides. Take the square root of both sides. Well, the square root of anything squared is itself, so I end up with 2x plus 3 is going to be equal to plus or minus the square root of 12 over on the other side. All I did was take the square root of both sides. Buddy, all right? Okay. Now, once again, as always, anytime you want to solve it, you want to isolate the variable term. So I need to get this isolated. So I'm going to subtract 3. So I've got 2x is equal to negative 3 plus or minus square root of 12. Last step, divide both sides by the coefficient of the variable. I'm going to divide by 2. And I get x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 12 all over 2. So that means I've got x equals negative 3 plus the square root of 12 over 2. And I've got x equals negative 3 minus the square root of 12 all over 2. So you'll notice once we get down to here, the answers look exactly like these. We just arrived at them in a different way. Once again, we use our calculator. Square root of 12, 3.4 something? 3.46, somebody knock it off for me real quick. Square root of 12, 3.46. So I've got negative 3 plus, what we say, 3.46, okay, divided by 2. Okay, so if you do that, what do we come up with? 0.23? Negative or positive? Positive. We've got 0.23. And down negative 3.23 down here? Negative 3.23. I thought I was close. I was doing it in my head. I just want to make sure I didn't tell you something that was wrong. Okay, so there are the two answers to that particular problem.